Okay, this is the shoulder. As you can see, it's a ring running all the way around. If the ball joint shoulder isn't pressed all the way up against this A-arm shoulder, it can crack the A-arm and the ball joint can come loose, work its way out, drop the vehicle, all sorts of other nastiness can happen. So you got to make sure that you're up against this and seat it good when you're done. Now comes the real trick to this thing, the ball joint press kit. And as I recall, we're going to need this and both of these and a couple of these sleeves here, which I think that's the one I need, and maybe that one. But anyway, this is how we're going to get the ball joints out, but I'll video that with the other camera. So here's the shiny new top ball joint. I press the top one out, and the trick is when you push this in, you only want to push on the metal edge. You do not want to touch this cap, and you need to make sure you don't hit the stud. And that's where these little shoes come in. These let the pin go through. So this is your receiving side. And then you use these other little fittings, like this here, to push on the top, to push it in. There goes my box. Sorry about the shaky cam there, guys. Alright. And then here's the one that goes under the bottom. Now this one's a little too snug for this ball joint. It's alright to put it under the bottom, because you're not going to press into it. And see, now I done gone and got it stuck. We are. Alright. You want to make sure that it goes in square. So if you put it up here and wiggle it around, you can usually find square. There. Now, I've got to figure out what my rig is going to be. Alright, we're going to use that for a bottom. This will be the top. Alright, let's make sure I got to get around that. Okay, that'll fit. We want to put this back together. Make sure we're seated up good on the and it'll honestly start going in just by turning the threads with your hand. And it should square itself on up as it goes in. I think we just seat it down. Flashlight and have a look. Okay. Now, and as you can see, I can't move that stud. That's because it's a new good ball joint. And remember the other one, I can wobble it all around. Wore out ball joint. Now you want to get up here and look, and it is all the way down against the arm. And that's what we want to see. Now here's a very important step. Don't forget to put the Zerk fitting in. What's the Zerk fitting? The grease fitting. Now if I had some 90-degree ones in stock, I would put a 90 in and point in, because it'd be a little easier to grease this thing. Like when you're under it doing maintenance oil change, you can just reach up and squirt, squirt, squirt. The bottom one's pretty easy on this because you can just come through. But don't forget your Zerk fitting. Another thing to keep in mind is that on these boots there's a notch in the rubber. That notch goes to the inside. That lets any grease out and also lets air out. And you don't want that pointing towards your brakes. So you put it to the back side. And sometimes these things are a little bit of a bear to get on. Now I gotta go get it and clean it. Okay, now that the top joint's in, we gotta do the bottom joint. Now the bottom joint's a little different on this truck. For the most part, everything's the same, but as you can remember, when I took out the original, you got that snap ring. Now we're gonna do all the same stuff that we did for the top one. Except we're going to come up from the bottom this time. Now, I got to find a tool that will go over and push on this shoulder. Alright, it's going in square. Alright. And we're almost in. Let it sit there and put some pressure on it for a second. And it's seated. Alright, so there we go. Bottom ball joints in. Yeah. Same thing as we did on the top. Notch goes to the inside. I'm going to take this little 5/16 1/4" drive set up here and install it. Alright, and then snap ring pliers, again to the rescue. There. That ball joint's fully installed. Now I gotta let the arm down, go get the new spring. We'll get the new spring in. And this is where you want to be careful. Some springs can come sailing out of there. So you just let the jack go down slow. And there, that spring's unloaded. Okay, so now we're going to get the spring out. Now, springs don't lose their rate, and that's a fact. But what they do is lose their memory. That's why you see old cars and they're sagging. Because an 800-pound spring is always and forever an 800-pound spring. But it does lose its memory. It'll still be an 800-pound spring, but let's say the original height of this thing was, say, 12 inches. At 150,000 miles, the height of it's 11 inches or 10.5 inches. And that's what's happened with this truck. So, I'm going to put some new variable rate springs in it. There's a flat wound end on these springs, and there's a round wound end. The round end goes down here, and there's a slot back here for it to set in. It's more of a stop. And then this is the boot to go on top, which is rubbed through from time. So we'll slip around to a new spot on that. Alright. And what I'll do is slide it in here. We're gonna get the spring up in the pocket and then push the arm down. This is how I normally do this. Ow. Try not to smash your finger in the process, like I just did. Alright. I'm going to get that up in the spring pocket there. There. And then I got to spin it I got about an inch to go. There. Alright. Springs in place. Ball joints are in. Now comes the fun part. I gotta put the spindle back on. here we are all back together. The battery ran out, and I didn't realize it till I had the caliper almost back on, but that's really the only thing you missed. I put the shock bolt in. I put the shock bolt in back down there, put the caliper back on, put 2 caliper bolts in, torqued it, put some red Loctite on it. Need to shoot a little grease in the Zerks. Need to sit and step in there and step on the brake pedal and close the brakes back up. Other than that, put the wheel on, put her on the ground, and this thing's ready to go for a ride. So anyway, hope you found that entertaining and interesting. This is one of those things that's a good skill to learn, changing ball joints. You can make a few dollars with it. You can save a few dollars with it if you're working on your own stuff. But either way, it's a good skill to have. Hope you enjoyed it, at least found it entertaining. If you got any questions or got any comments, please make them below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to each other. Learn a new skill. Work that skill till it becomes craftsmanship. We'll see you next time. This is Fab Race Mod Repeat.